Welcome to Capital Catch-Up. I'm Victor.
And I'm Leanie. Today we're digging into the latest legislative action, nominations, and floor activity from Congress. Let's start with the bills and resolutions that have been introduced recently.
First up, Senate Bill 4051, the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Coin Act. This measure proposes to mint commemorative coins to honor fallen firefighters, with proceeds likely going to related memorials or support organizations.
Next, Senate Bill 4127, the Transportation Security Administration Pay Act of 26. As the title suggests, it focuses on adjusting compensation for TSA employees, which could affect recruitment and retention at airport security checkpoints nationwide.
Senate Bill 107 seeks to amend the Lumbee Act of 1956. While we don't have the amendment details here, any change to that act would impact the federal relationship with the Lumbee tribe.
Senate Bill 997 aims to enhance the security operations and workforce stability of the Transportation Security Administration by placing its employees under the Title V personnel system, which governs most federal civilian workers. In plain terms, it would give TSA staff access to the same pay scales, benefits, and job protections as other federal employees.
Senate Bill 1163 would amend the Internal Revenue Code to exclude certain veterinary student loan repayment or forgiveness assistance from taxable income. If enacted, it could lower the tax burden for veterinarians who receive help paying off their education debt.
Senate Bill 1383 would establish a Veterans Advisory Committee on Equal Access. The committee's purpose, as the title indicates, would be to advise on ensuring veterans have equitable access to benefits and services.
Senate Bill 1602 is focused on STEM education. It would coordinate federal research and development efforts to modernize mathematics instruction through modeling, data-driven learning, problem-solving, and career connections, especially in K-12 settings.
Senate Bill 2808 would require the Secretary of Agriculture to publish a report on the fertilizer industry. The report would likely cover market concentration, pricing, supply chain factors, and impacts on farmers.
Moving to resolutions, Senate Resolution 525 condemns the Iranian government's state-sponsored persecution of the Baha'i minority and its ongoing violations of international human rights covenants.
Senate Resolution 526 would withhold the pay of senators if a government shutdown occurs. It's a procedural tool meant to incentivize timely appropriations by putting congressional salaries on the line.
Senate Bill 3570 would establish duties for online service providers regarding the end-user data they collect and use. Though the text isn't before us, the title suggests it would impose new responsibilities on platforms concerning data privacy and security.
House Resolution 7147 is a major appropriations measure, making further consolidated appropriations for the federal government for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2026. This is the kind of bill that funds agencies, programs, and operations across the government.
Senate Joint Resolution 116 is a joint resolution directing the removal of U.S. armed forces from hostilities within or against Iran that have not been authorized by Congress. Joint resolutions, when passed by both chambers and signed by the President or enacted over a veto, carry the force of law, so this would have real-world military policy implications.
Senate Bill 4073 would provide continuing appropriations for essential TSA pay and operations during a lapse in regular funding that begins February 14, 2026. It's a stopgap measure to keep airport security functioning if the regular appropriations process stalls.
Finally, Senate Bill 4139 would require the Secretary of State, in coordination with the Secretary of Defense, to submit a report on emerging threats to Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. The focus appears to be on security challenges in the Baltic region.
Now let's turn to nominations. The Senate has received several executive nominations requiring its advice and consent.
James Bishop of North Carolina is nominated to be United States Attorney for the Middle District of North Carolina, filling the vacancy left by Sandra J. Hairston.
Colin McDonald of California is nominated to be an Assistant Attorney General, succeeding Todd Sunway Kim.
Stephen Lewis of Missouri is nominated to serve as United States Marshal for the Eastern District of Missouri, succeeding John D. Jordan, whose term expired.
Brian Barber of Louisiana is nominated to be United States Marshal for the Western District of Louisiana, succeeding Henry Lee Whitehorn Sr., whose term also expired.
Priscilla Lopez of Florida is nominated to be United States Marshal for the Southern District of Florida, succeeding Gadiakis S. Serralta, whose term expired.
We also see a nomination for Markwayne Mullen of Oklahoma to be Secretary of Homeland Security, replacing Kristi Noem. This is a cabinet-level position that would require Senate confirmation.
In addition, There are several nominations listed without descriptions in the source. Nominations numbers 876, 878, 881, 885, 887, 888, 877, and 882. Since the source provides no further detail, we can only note that they are pending before the Senate.
Lastly, let's glance at the congressional record for March 18th and March 19th, 2026. Form 172, Noster 49, and 50. These documents contain the verbatim proceedings, debates, and remarks from the House and Senate floors for those days. They are the official record of what lawmakers said and did during their sessions.
To sum up, today we covered a range of legislation touching on commemorative coins, TSA pay, tribal law, workforce policy, student loans, veterans affairs, STEM education, agriculture, human rights, government accountability, data privacy, appropriations, military operations, and international security. We also highlighted key nominations for federal attorneys, marshals, an assistant attorney general, and a cabinet secretary, plus the routine but vital work recorded in the congressional record.
That's a wrap for this episode of Capital Catch-Up. I'm Lainey.
And I'm Victor. Thanks for listening and stay informed.